Talktainment Radio Worldwide Sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning. Good morning and good morning. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. That's the world's greatest radio, and you are in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am Mr. Bobby, your co-host, and this is radio the way it should be heard. If I sound a little draggy, that's because I'm under some medication today. My friends are in the studio with me. They are allergies, and they are really severe, so they will be with me. But we will do what we have to do to make sure that we give you, present to you the information that Mr. Fuller will dispense. So good morning to all. I hope it's not hot and humid wherever you are, but if it is, take the necessary precautions. I love that statement that Mr. Fuller makes at the beginning of the program, because I have found it myself through research and listening, that if you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. And brothers and sisters, from the perch that I'm atop of for this particular moment, I concur with that statement. I feel that most people really do not understand racism, white supremacy, what it is and how it works, because I can tell that because of some of the questions that come in. But one of the ways that you can help yourself understand racism, really what it is and how it works, is by getting a copy of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, which is a workbook, textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism or white supremacy. You have to understand that you are a victim. Now, if you don't believe you're a victim, then there's nothing I can say or to convince you. But you need to get this book, and you can get it by going to producejustice.com. That's the only place that you can get this book at, is producejustice.com. And on the screen, which will come up, will be directions on what you are supposed to do to get this book and how you are to attain it. An additional word guide is also available for purchase, which will help you define the word, codes and things like that, and how to speak to the situations that you are confronted with. And in my opinion, and only in my opinion, if you really want to understand racism, white supremacy, then you need a copy of this book. All right? All right. Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. is on the line. And Mr. Fuller, good morning. And how are you this day?
I'm still learning.
Yes, sirree. Before we get started with the show, sometimes we ask you a concern or how you would like the discussion to go. Oh, by the way, listeners, and we do thank you for calling. To get in contact with the show, you may call 1-877-932-9766. And we have our screeners there, and they will give you direction. Or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and I will try to get your messages on. Okay, Mr. Fuller, what is a concern or concerns you have today, starting off today's show?
Well, I would just like to make an opening statement about that people can always use when they're asked about the racial situation in any context. And I've repeated this down through the years and whatnot. This statement is not in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. It'll be in the updated version, hopefully when that comes out, presumably as soon as possible. But right now I don't have a date. But that statement is, many people have been harmed who should not be harmed. Many people are to blame. The people who are most to blame are hiding in plain sight. The people who are most to blame are all white supremacists. Now that's what you might call an umbrella statement that will apply to any situation going on the planet at any given moment where there is a racial element involved. And when there is a racial element involved, it automatically means somebody is being harmed, because that's the whole purpose for racism, is to harm somebody. Racism doesn't serve any purpose. People say, well, we have different races of people. No, we just got one race of people, and that is the white race. The only reason for being a member of a race is to practice racism. Racism, being a member of a race, serves no purpose whatsoever. You can be a member of a sorority, a fraternity, a club, a tribe, but the only reason for anybody being a member of a race, and you do have to join a race, you're not born in a race of people. You're born a person. You're not born in a category of a race of people. That's something that the white supremacists thought up, saying that people are born in a race of people. No, they made that up. And so race is racism. Being a member of a race is to practice racism. That's all it's good for. It's not good for anything else. And what is racism? Dominating and mistreating people on the basis of color. It serves absolutely no other purpose, and no one can come up with any purpose that it does serve other than that. Other than that,
yes.
Right.
You know, I will concur with that, because right now myself and my research team are doing a study of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And one of the things that I have discovered, which will line up with the statement that you just made, is back in really the late 1600s, this particular practice of racism, which is a problem here in America, was going on then. And what we discovered is that the existence of the African Methodist Church was presented because of the fact that the white supremacists did not want to worship service with black people. So a lot of the black peoples had to go up in the balcony to worship while the white people sat down in what you would call the main area of the church. And what bothered us is that, okay, you're worshiping God, but why would you not want to have everybody being, if you will, being equal? Well, the white supremacists didn't want that, so they made it separate. And so two fellows, and I don't have their names with me right at the particular moment, but they are the ones that helped start the African Methodist Episcopal Church, because the white supremacists did not want to worship with black folks. And so now you have it, and they're all over. And there's a historical line that leads all the way back to the church in Charleston, South Carolina, where the 9 people were executed or assassinated. And my team found that very interesting. And as we get results, maybe we'll have an opportunity to present that. Let's go to the phone lines. And what line, Mr. Galen? Line number 1. Good morning. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question?
Good morning, gentlemen. My question is, October the 10th, 2015 is the Million Man March on Washington with Minister Louis Farrakhan leading the charge. The theme is justice or else. since it's supposedly a constructive event, will Mr. Fuller be attending, or would you ask Minister Farrakhan if you could give us a talk to the people?
Would I be attending?
Yes.
Yes,
or will you be giving a talk?
I've been asked to participate.
A talk to the people there.
No, I've been asked to participate, like I've been asked to participate in a lot of talks since 2007. But I stopped traveling and I stopped participating in talks even locally here in Washington, D.C., which is where I am, ever since 2007, mostly on account of health reasons, and because it's not conducive for me to try to do that, because I do have some dysfunction sometimes when I'm out in a public forum, and it's on account of I sometimes become a little nauseated or dizzy, you might say, on account of circulatory problems. That's basically what it is. Somewhat like people who are members of a band and they stand in one place for a long time when they're getting ready to assemble, like getting ready for a parade or something like that. So I do have some of those dysfunctions that start kind of taking over in the year 2007. So I have turned down requests based on that, because I have a tendency to get a little dizzy and passing out, sometimes just because of circulatory problems. So that's my answer to that. Most likely I will not be participating.
Mr. Fuller, would you give any advice or give what you think should happen there to advance the subject of justice in a constructive way?
Oh, just do what people ever think. The United Independent concept is that people say what is on their minds and try to, with just three things in mind: truth, justice, and correctness, with a goal of solving the problem of replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice, either directly or indirectly. Anything associated with the production of justice, can be and should be said. And that's what the announcement is. So I'm quite sure that the people who are assembling there have some ideas. That's why they are assembling, or they are assembling for the purpose of getting some ideas about how best to go about achieving that. Since if you said it, if I heard correctly, you say the banner for the discussion will be justice or else. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct. That's the theme.
Okay, if that's the theme, then the people who are talking about it, the people who are assembling there, must have some ideas about what they're going to present, how they're going to present it, and what the result should be. So anything along that line, I am not qualified to say anything in disapproval of it, because anytime anybody's talking about justice, well, how can you disapprove of that, logically speaking, if you have constructive intent? So that's all that's really needed. You come with constructive intent. And anytime you say that you're trying to produce justice, that is a monumental constructive intent on the part of anybody. Mm-hmm. So anybody who is doing this anywhere right this minute, they are doing what they should be doing, according to logic.
Okay.
Constructive logic.
Thank you for your call, caller. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have by the way, you are listening to the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. And if you would like to get in contact with the show, there are two ways that you can do this. First, by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and we will try to get your question on so that you may get an answer to your question. We're going to go to Houston, Texas, and we have Tony. And Tony says this, hi, Mr. Fuller. I'm Tony calling out of Houston, Texas. I have a question for you, Mr. Fuller. Can you explain in a little more detail, give me an example of how is everything ran by white supremacy? Whoa. Oh, Mr. Fuller. Oh, wow. Uh-oh. Okay, he's not going to hear the question. We got disconnected here. So we're going to have to get him back on here. Wow, technical difficulty here. Or did I accidentally disconnect him there? I may have. So we'll have to have Mr. Fuller call back. But Tony wanted to know, because a statement has been made by Mr. Fuller, that white supremacy is controlling everything, and Tony wanted to know how could that be. And I think we got him back on. Okay. Excuse me here. I think I did that. I think I pushed the wrong button. Okay. Do we have him back on there? Okay. All right. Get him in here. Okay. So that I can hear him. Okay, sorry about that, Mr. Fuller. I did that. I think I pushed the wrong button. But a question came in from Tony. He was calling out of Houston, Texas, and he says, can you explain in a little more detail of the question or the statement that you made? He said, how is everything ran by white supremacy or white supremacists?
By just looking around, if you want evidence, to see who's running things, who has the last word in any area of activity.
Mm-hmm.
Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. When it comes to what you might call black people's business, either directly or indirectly, and I'm not saying that all white people are white supremacists, but the most powerful and the smartest people on this planet who dominate the business of the non-white people on this planet are people who believe in and who practice white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
According to what? According to Neely Fuller? No, according to the evidence. Just go and take a look. Who is telling who what to do, when, where, how? Who is asking for whatever they need? Who is asking who? What persons are asking what persons? Just look at that. If someone wants this thing called justice, whom do they ask? If someone wants anything in the field of the first area of activity, economics, we want jobs. I don't have a job. Please, somebody give me a job. Yeah, are there some jobs out there? And when it comes to a quote-unquote racial context, who is asking, what person is asking what person for a job? Do you see white people all over the world begging black people? Please, you black people, you very capable, you very brainy, you very wealthy black people, please provide some jobs for us down and out ignorant white people. Please, we have our babies in our arms and we're coming to you. Please, we need some welfare. And if we can't get welfare, we need jobs. We prefer to have jobs. Please, us white people, are just, we don't know what to do. We don't know where to go. We don't know who to see. We are in bad shape. Please, black people, have some mercy on us. Please give us some of those wonderful jobs that all of you wonderful black people, brainy black people, can provide for the whole world, because you have so many of them. You have enough jobs left over for everybody. You are the greatest minds that ever have existed. Please, black people, You built the pyramids. So please provide us us white people who are down and out with everything that we need. And in the field of education, yes, let us go to some of your schools so we can learn. Please, black people, please. I don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen that. I've never even heard of it. And I don't think any other person walking around during the time that I have been on this planet, a relatively short time, if you consider the universe has been here for millions of years. Now, a lot of people say, well, it once wasn't like that. We're not talking about what it once wasn't. We're talking about what is going on right now. That's a cop-out. When black people start talking about, well, it wasn't always like that. I mean, we built the pyramids and we do. Yeah, right. I'm talking about right this minute, mister. That's what you look at. What is the condition right this minute? And another thing, how did it get this way?
That's the question you got to ask. That's the question you have to ask.
I mean, a lot of people like to go around, and I say one of the ugliest things that you will ever see in your life is a black person bragging about anything. Because black people, we took that black history and went in the wrong, incorrect direction with it, according to logic. Black history was supposed to be an adrenaline builder to show black people the shape that we're in now and how we got that way. Okay? That is the purpose. Find out where your mistakes are, not try to find out how great you were 80,000 years ago. That's not the purpose for studying history. The purpose, basically, for studying history is not to look for something to brag about. The purpose for studying what happened 15 minutes ago is to find out, did you make a mistake 15 years ago? And what can you do to correct that mistake?
Yes, sir. Wow. All righty. Let's go to the phone lines. And line number, Galen? Line number 3. Good morning. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question? And turn your radio down.
Hello?
Okay, yes. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Go ahead, my brother. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Hey, Mr. Fuller, I really appreciate the work you guys do, and I had a quick question. Do you think it's possible to have white supremacy and justice at the same time? And I'm going to tell you why I asked this question. It's because, let's say everybody does start to treat each other right, by the compensatory way. The powers that be are still going to hold on to that power as far as being the ones who have what we need. So in that case, would that still be white supremacy and justice?
No. The answer is no. You can't have white supremacy and justice in the same universe at the same time. That's absolutely impossible. It's either or. Now, what is justice? Justice is guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. That's the compensatory definition for justice, one that I made up. A lot of people will say, well, that's not an adequate definition. Well, until one comes along that's better, I'm going to hold on to that one because there was no definition that made sense to me before then, before I made one up. That's why I made one up. That's why I call it a compensatory definition. It's to make up for what's missing. I didn't like the definitions that I was hearing because they sounded like they weren't definitions at all. I mean, they just said, well, justice is fairness. Well, fairness can mean white. My fair lady. You know, fair play. I mean, it's usually associated with something white. And so that definition for justice could have been made up by white supremacists because it's equated with being fair. But the word fair usually connotes being white or something associated with being white.
I appreciate it. In addition to that, I want to say, okay, let's say everybody does start treating people right. Let's say that the powers that be, they don't mistreat us. They're still going to have the resources and the power to provide us to treat us right. You get where I'm going with this?
What is your question, brother? He couldn't hear that.
There's still, I'm saying there will still be a supreme dominance as far as what we get and how we get it. Even if we are treated right, we still have to get treated right by them.
Mr. Fuller, did you hear his question?
His question is, in order to be treated right, well, see, I don't even use the word right. I say treated with justice, okay? Because then I have given that a definition. I don't even have a definition for right. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a definition for right and wrong, not really, because it keeps shifting under the system of white supremacy. So I just throw those two words completely out the window, right and wrong. We have no idea of what right and wrong is because the white supremacists have completely messed that up in every area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. What used to be right in sex is not right any longer. I mean, what used to be wrong in sex is not wrong any longer. Why? Because the white supremacists say so. That's why. So what is right? What is wrong? See what I mean? And they have done this in every area of activity. Why? To confuse their victims, which is what they change everything for. Anytime they start sliding things around, you better believe they are orchestrating mass confusion. Mass confusion for whom? For non-white people. This is how they stay in power. So in direct answer, if I understand your question, somebody will still be in charge. But see, the whole idea is it doesn't make any difference who's running the airplane, who flies the airplane, who drives the train. In other words, who's in charge. What makes a difference is by doing what when you are in charge. And if you're practicing justice, it doesn't make any difference what so-called color or classification, whether the person is male or female, tall or short, or what the other characteristics might be. Is the person practicing justice? That's the only criteria, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's all you have to look at. Just ask that question. Is anybody here being mistreated? Because if somebody's being mistreated, we don't have justice here. And then the other part of that is everybody getting the constructive help that they need. Everybody, without exception. Because if somebody's left out, you don't have justice. That's the concept. That's what we should be aiming for worldwide, 24/7. No exceptions.
No exceptions. Wow. That is. Whew. So when you have this particular situation that people still are crying out, for that, is it because they don't see that, or they don't feel like there's hope for justice?
Well, it's both. See, you have to have hope. That's a word that's used all the time. Hope, H-O-P-E. Mm-hmm. The president used it throughout his President Barack Obama. He used that word hope a lot. Well, what is hope? Hope is a wish for things to change, really. I mean, otherwise, what would you be hoping for? You always have to hope for something, which means you're not satisfied with the way things are. And you shouldn't be satisfied with the way things are until they are exactly the way that they're supposed to be. And the criteria for that would be justice and correctness, which theoretically would equal that thing that we call peace. Now, we don't have the criteria for peace because we have never experienced it. But the equation would be truth. You start with truth. You have to have the truth first about everything. Tell the truth about everything. Don't cut any corners just to make yourself feel good. And a lot of victims of racism have that tendency.
Yes.
We like to tell ourselves lies just because we want to feel good. This is why we get on drugs and all like that. We want to feel good, even if it's an artificial feeling good.
Yes,
you're not really feeling good. You're getting in a worse shape than you were before because what you're doing is based on a lie. And that is that cocaine is going to help you.
And that's a lie.
It's not going to help you. Yeah, that's an illusion. The white supremacists are masters of illusion.
Yes, sir.
They will help you. They will help you feed an illusion in a minute.
Okay.
They will help a black person to say I am the greatest thing that ever was, and I know everything. Nobody else knows nothing except me. That's the state of mind that they want their slaves to be in.
All righty. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Check us out on WCRS FM 98.3 Wednesdays and Sunday evenings. Blogs and podcasts are available. You can download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or tablet. We go where you go. Radio the way it should be heard. On the second side of the action, we're going to have a question from page 39 that Rodney wrote in, and more of your phone calls coming up next on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTainmentRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTainmentRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Hello, I'm Lisa Stockdale from Senior Agenda, and I would like to encourage you to visit the Worthington Retirement Community here in Central Ohio. I've had the privilege of working closely with the staff and residents over at the Worthington for the past couple of years, and I can promise you they make a wonderful community. If you or a loved one are considering retirement living, you'll want to pay them a visit before you make your next move. When you choose to join the Worthington, you'll gain the peace of mind that comes from knowing that their independent retirement lifestyle simplifies your retirement living. They take care of the cooking, shopping, and cleaning so that you can focus on the things that are truly important to you. Plan to visit the Worthington today. They're conveniently located at 1201 Riva Ridge Boulevard in Gahanna, Ohio. You can call or have to schedule a tour at 614-933-8640 or just stop in. Be sure to tell them Lisa sent you and enjoy your retirement living.
The Glory Soul Food Cafe, a taste of Southern classic, located at 3350 Allegheny Avenue in Columbus, Ohio. They've got everything you need. The famous LaGlory burger, chicken and waffles, shrimp and grits, walleye, perch, and whiting, and fish dinners, all Southern-style food.
Oh, boy. What good eating!
LaGlory Soul Food Cafe, a taste of Southern classic, located at 3350 Allegheny Avenue, Columbus, Ohio. Be sure to tell them that All in Our Family sent you, and you will receive an extra side dish with each meal. LaGlory Soul Food Cafe, a taste of Southern classic, located at 3350 Allegheny Avenue, Columbus, Ohio. For carry-out, call 614-237-5844. Get the menu at LaGlory'sCafe.com. Open 7 days a week.
For the best eating in town. Love Glory.
This show, A Conversation with Dawn Karima, has been nominated for an Indigenous Music Award, which is just such a great honor. Take a minute and please vote at AboriginalPeoplesChoice.com or Indigenous Music Awards. You can just find it on Google. For this show, A Conversation with Dawn Karima, and my CD, The Stars of Heaven, for Best Gospel, and this show for Best Radio Program. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody. Stop by and vote and tell them this is where great things happen.
Hey guys, let's play some video games.
This new dad plays video games with his sons, but the challenge feels like he's lifting a metric ton.
So many buttons.
His avatar just stares at the walls, twists and turns and somehow falls.
Help me!
He's tangled up in the controller's cords.
I just don't understand this crazy digital world.
Crazy, crazy digital world. Zeros and ones. But the love from his kids is totally apparent. Ooh. See, you don't have to be perfect to be the perfect parent.
Should have just played catch.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of siblings in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to sell all your belongings and live in a commune.
These dungarees belong to all of us now, Tom.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman!
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat?
Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
Alrighty, welcome back to a second slice of the action here on TalkTeamRadio.com. You are listening to the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And if you'd like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and I will try to get to your message. Mr. Fuller, concerning your book, would you just give some details that you want to speak to before we go back into our questions?
Yes. You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. Now, this is the only source that's supposed to be for this book. It's not supposed to be any other sources. Now, also, there have been some distortions that's been reported to me. I don't have all of the information in, but from time to time there are people who take bits and pieces of the codified material that I have written, and they mix it in with other materials that have nothing to do with what I'm saying. So if you want to get to directly to the material that I'm presenting, you can come on TalkTeamRadio.com, and then sometimes I'm a guest on what they call the airways, AM, FM radio on different stations. Periodically, I'm on those stations. But the only internet station that I'm associated with, generally speaking, basically speaking, is TalkTeamRadio.com. Now, there's written material sometimes that appears on screens on the internet, I have been told, that is supposed to be or said to be in connection with what I am presenting, the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. I am not affiliated with any of this, and I'm not aware of any of this, for the most part, of the people who are doing it. And I strongly suspect that the white supremacists are operating in that field, and they are distorting some part of the message. This has been reported to me. I don't have absolute verification of it, but I think that people who go on the internet a lot and look at it, they can probably see that there's some mixtures somewhere in different places and some distortions and things mixed in with what I say that's attributed to me, or is given some impression that I'm somehow associated with what is being said, where I'm not. Now, it's okay for people to quote me and put my name on it if it's a direct quote from me. But if people have some other agenda, they should make it clear who they are, what they're doing and why, and what they're saying, and then what I'm saying. I quote Mark Twain, and I quote Malcolm X sometimes. I quote President Barack Obama. It's just simple distinctions.
Yes, sir.
Yes, if I'm quoting President Obama, I say that I'm quoting President Obama. I'm not saying that I said this. I'm saying President Obama is saying this. And I'll give the reference. If I'm quoting from the Washington Post, and sometimes I do, a newspaper, prominent newspaper, I'll say this comes from the Washington Post.
Yes, sir.
If I'm quoting Marcus Garvey, it's the same thing. Sometimes I do quote Marcus Garvey and Mark Twain. All right? But I say that that's who I'm quoting. I don't mix it up with what I'm saying. I make it very distinct. And that's very important because the white supremacists are masters of confusion. And one thing that they do is distort what people are getting by mixing what they are saying in with what somebody else is saying.
Yes, sir. And me and my research team have and are looking into that, and we have discovered some things, but we're not going to go any further than that. You mentioned that you are on some terrestrial radio stations. Is in the Washington area, are you still on WOL with, I think that's a Kathy Hughes station?
Yes, it is. I come on that station every now and then.
Okay.
On the Carl Nelson show.
Okay.
Right.
All right. That's good.
When I am invited.
Okay.
But other than that, I go straight to Straight Talk.
Okay.
And
that's with Kahari.
Yeah, that's another one.
That's Saturdays at 6
right.
a.m. here in Columbus, Ohio.
In Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
And then other than that, regularly, I'm only on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
All righty. That's why we say exclusively, because internet radio, and you are there. Okay. Lewis, let me get my screen up here, had a question about, that was on page 39 of the book. He was speaking about, let me get the quote here. He was speaking about, in the area of sex, and he said, Mr. Fuller, my question is in the area of sexual play, intercourse, and or confusion. On page 39 of the textbook where you write about white supremacists having, quote, dominant functional control, or influence over the sexual expressions and or desires of other persons. Is Mr. Fuller talking about bestiality or what? Among people who classify themselves as white?
Now, I haven't mentioned bestiality, but I do say that the white supremacists, like in all areas of activity, that's the 8th area of activity, as listed in the textbook for Victims of White Supremacy. The 8th area, sex, is a very powerful area, and like in all other areas, economics, education, entertainment, religion, the white supremacists dominate what black people do in those areas of activity.
Okay.
That's why they are steering black people or non-white people all over the world into this degenderization.
Yes.
Sometimes called the LBGT thing, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But basically, they're scrambling the genders among non-white people in order to do what? To give them greater power by doing what? What they do best.
Okay.
Confusion.
See,
this is the whole purpose for that entire movement when it's applied to non-white people.
Okay.
Now, among white people, that's just a bait.
Okay. See? Now, on page 39, and I have the book right in front of me, and hopefully other people do too, so they can go along with me. You write, any white person who engages in sexual intercourse with a non-white person under conditions dominated by white supremacy has done more to promote the maintenance, expansion, and or refinement of white supremacy than he or she could have done by any other means in any other area of activity. This also is true when a white person under the conditions dominated by white supremacy commits a counter-sexual act. And you mentioned that would be a so-called sexual, rather homosexual act, against a non-white person. Anything that a white person says or does that helps to promote such behavior, and or anything that a white person says or does that helps promote sexual function or confusion of any kind among non-white people is, by so doing, participating racism in its most dysfunctional or destructive form. That's what you wrote. Could you explain a little bit on that before we go to the calls?
Yes, that's the most. Sex is a very, very powerful force. People all the time are either engaging in some type of sexual activity, that's everybody, or they are reacting to someone who is. This is 24/7 every day. Sexual power is the second greatest power among people.
Yes, sir. Okay.
On the planet.
On the planet.
The first greatest power among the people of the planet, according to counter-racist logic, is white supremacy.
Okay.
Everybody's either supporting white supremacy or whatnot, or they're trying to resist it in some form.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's a great, great power.
All right.
I mean, and so sex is the next one.
Sex is the next one.
Okay? So the white supremacists understand this, so they say that, hey, we got to make sure that we always manipulate and control what black people do sexually.
I think
we are always in control of it, but we will make it look like they're controlling something.
That's the key
They're
word.
not controlling anything.
Right.
We're in control of what they do.
That's the key word, manipulation. You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com, and we'll try to get you on. Let's go to the phone lines. And line number one, you're up. What is your question for Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.?
Hello. Good morning. My name is Tyreek from the Bronx.
Yes, go ahead, Tyreek.
Yes, my question is, it's interesting because I was thinking the same thing that Mr. Fuller was thinking, but I have religion as the first most effective weapon of confusion by the white supremacists, then sex, and then entertainment, simply because these things are things that people willingly participate in at their most dominant form. Everyone loves sex, everyone wants to worship God, and everyone wants to be entertained. And so when you can get people to be slaves on their own, it makes the job much easier.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was listening to the news, and then they allowed, I heard Mr. Fuller mention the sexual confusion, and they just allowed the Boy Scouts to allow homosexual leaders into their troop, which is interesting because you're going to have young kids and minors going into the woods with, these people.
So what is your question, Tyreek?
My question is, does Mr. Fuller see white supremacists continuing to refine white supremacy since it's already working so effectively? I mean, they've already done a job that people willingly accept their slavery. And so my question is, do they feel the need to continue to refine? Does he see them going to refine their message? Do they have to?
Okay, thank you, Tyreek. Mr. Fuller?
Yes, it's just like maintaining a house or maintaining a car or maintaining a business. White supremacy is the biggest business, the most powerful business that the world has ever seen.
On the entire planet.
So once you establish something, you have to maintain what you establish. Anybody that owns a house knows that you got to get out there and cut that lawn.
That's right.
You got to trim the hedges. You got to make sure that the plumbing is working. The average person who has a house knows that they're going to have some plumbing problems sooner or later, and it's a real headache. But you got to be on top of it. Otherwise, you'll have problems all over the house. If the pipes are breaking loose and the water's running all over the floor.
That's right.
You cannot have that. It's the same with the system of white supremacy. The white supremacists spend 24/7 maintaining and tweaking and altering different parts of their white supremacist operations worldwide among all of the non-white people on the planet. They have to. They sit at their consoles, pushing buttons constantly. They don't leave if they change places or change the white faces and sometimes black faces sitting at those consoles. I mean, those consoles do not be left unattended. They sit there pushing buttons all the time. They make sure that no non-white person is doing anything anywhere that they don't approve of and or that they can ignore. They'll check it out and say, well, I don't know what this black person is doing, but I'm going to watch him for a little while.
Okay.
So they'll watch it, and they'll say, oh, he's trying hard, but he's not getting nowhere. Okay. So I'll just go on I'll just turn the page on this one, and get back to him later because he's ineffective.
Yeah, they got it under control.
They have it under control.
Okay. Right. All righty. Line number what, Galen? Line number 2? Okay, number 2. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question?
Hello, Mr. Fuller. I would like to say I saw Dr. Chris Welsing about 2 weeks ago, and I had your books with me, and she autographed your book since I didn't bring her book with me. And I was just wondering, Mr. Fuller, do you do speaking engagements so I can get you to sign her book?
Did I do what now?
Do you do speaking engagements so I can get you to sign Dr. Chris Welsing's book?
Oh no, I don't do engagements anymore. I stopped traveling and I stopped talking even locally, other than over the airways and on the internet in 2007. So I know, I no longer participate in seminars or anything. I just go strictly to the telephone and I hook up like that.
But you have at one time when you were traveling, have you ever spoken with Dr. Welsing?
Oh, I used to travel with Dr. Welsing
okay.
for many years. Right. I mean, going from coast to coast. And we would appear on the same building and also at the Blackburn Center, Howard University, where she still speaks.
Yes.
Second Thursday of every month.
Yes.
She's been doing that for decades.
Yes.
Now. And I used to speak sometimes as a guest speaker with her.
Oh, okay.
At the Chris Welsing Institute, Howard University, 7:30, second Thursday of every month. Right now, she's not doing it because of the summer months, but I think that will resume again. That will resume in September.
That's right.
And then it will go right on up until next summer.
Okay. And caller, was that book, The ISIS Papers by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, you had her sign?
No, I thought when she was at the speaking engagement, they was going to have her book, so I wanted to buy a brand new one and have her sign that.
Okay.
And the joke was on me when I got up there. They didn't have hers, but I had took Mr. Fuller's books with me so I could show my friend what his books look like.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for signing a copy of Mr. Fuller's book. Thank you so much, dear. Okay, line number 3, Galen? Line number 3. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question?
Greetings. This is Brother Warren from New Orleans, and I have a question for Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fuller, you really intrigued me, I think, 2 shows before where you mentioned that if you're on a job and you have some sort of problems, you feel you're being harassed, you ask for an inquiry, an investigation into whether your constitutional rights have been violated. Could you please elaborate more on the logic behind that and how that may play out?
Thank you, Warren. Mr. Fuller?
Well, most people claim that they believe in justice. So if you're on a job, you just say that it's not so much your constitutional rights that you are trying to protect. You just say that you're trying to protect the Constitution, and then the Constitution, presumably, protects everybody from any kind of mistreatment. See, the key word here is mistreatment. So if you perceive that there may be some mistreatment, particularly if the person being mistreated is you, then you ask for an investigation. See, that's an inquiry. I call it the 3 I's. I made this up so I could remember it easily. Inquiry, investigation, and indictment. Now, do not take part in the investigation or the indictment. Indictment means you're accusing somebody of something. Don't do that. Don't do that, because the burden of proof when you make an accusation is on you.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that people will usually tell you on a job, oh, if you got a problem, you better get you a lawyer. That's a huge trap. Because what's going to happen is you're going to lose a whole lot of money and most likely lose your case. The average person, particularly if you're talking about your civil rights and all like that.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you're gonna spend a lot of time and money and do a whole lot of writing and get no results. And the reason I say that is because that's what people tells me keeps happening.
Yes, sir.
So I'm saying no. I believe the Constitution may have been violated. If you're talking about the United States of America, quote unquote.
Yes, sir.
I believe the Constitution of the United States may have been violated. I don't know if it's been violated, but it may have been.
You suspect it's been violated?
I suspect it could be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure. Maybe it hasn't been. But I'm calling for an investigation. An investigation by whom? By everybody who has a duty to protect and defend the Constitution. See what I mean? That's who you're asking.
Yes, sir.
And that will mean everybody who calls themselves a citizen under the Constitution. All right? They have that duty. They're supposed to come to the rescue, everybody, without exception. Mm-hmm. Everybody who has that duty to protect and defend the Constitution, once you mention the Constitution, everybody's supposed to drop what they're doing and say, wait a minute, we got a constitutional issue here. Because the whole idea is to protect the Constitution, because the Constitution, we have been told, protects everybody.
Yes, sir.
So you want to be under that umbrella.
Oh, okay.
So you call for an investigation to find out if the 5th and the 14th Amendment to the Constitution has been violated.
Yes, sir. Okay, quickly, let's go to line number one. Okay, line number one. What is your question for Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.? Quickly.
Mr. Fuller, how did you or how do you find strength, power, or enlightenment in oneself, since it's too dangerous to trust outside information due to global white supremacy?
Good question. Thank you, sir. Mr. Fuller?
Well, wait a minute. That sounds like an excellent question, but what was it?
I just cut him off. How do you find strength, though?
Oh, how do you find strength?
Yeah.
That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, okay, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Someone once asked me something like that. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And my answer was, what else am I supposed to be doing on this planet with my time and energy, other than trying to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice? What would I logically be doing that would make sense other than trying to replace the biggest problem on this planet with a problem solver, which theoretically would be the establishment and the continuation of a system of justice.
Yes. Okay. You know what? Since we're up against the clock, maybe next week we'll do more or get more of that. So I wrote it down to finding strength. Let's go to line number what, Galen? Line number 3? Line number 2. Go ahead. What is your question for Mr. Neely Fuller quickly, because we're up against the clock?
Mr. Fuller, do you have a third book or just the 2?
I just have 2 books, but I'm working on a replacement book, an updated version, a revised and expanded edition of the basic book. It's already been completed, but I'm trying to get it on a press, and that's taking a little tweaking here and a little tweaking there, and hopefully, it will be without errors, because, you have a tendency to overlook errors sometimes.
Yes, sir.
In any printed material.
And
so I'm trying to do the best to minimize the errors, because a counter-racist code is supposed to be error-proof.
Free. Mr. Fuller,
white supremacists are good at finding errors.
And before we let you go, where can we get the book again now, and the name of the book?
Go to producejustice.com, and what will come up, that's producejustice.com, and what will come up on the screen is a brief description of a basic textbook for victims of white supremacy, and a word guide. That's 2 books. And you can get one or the other by going to producejustice.com. The description of the books and the method for ordering.
Okay. Thank you, callers, and thank you for listening. Talktainmentradio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard.
You've got the power, the world's greatest radio. Talktainmentradio.com.